And I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, who luckily did not have to get on a plane to address us from Mexico. We have Omar Masera, who's going to talk to us today. He entered ERG during the fabled days of John Holdren and graduated with his PhD in 1995. He's a professor at the Institute for Ecosystems and Sustainability Research at the National University of Mexico and president of the Mexican Bioenergy Network. So Omar has a really interesting perspective, both teaching and working in rural areas of Latin America. And over the last few years, he's really formed his own thoughts on how to make a more productive relationship between universities and society. And besides just being a badass ergie, he's also a father helping homeschool his son through COVID and a triathlete. So Omar, we can't wait to hear what you say. Take it away.
Thank you, Deepa. I am very excited to have been invited to give this keynote speech. I should say that I feel overwhelmed by still after so many years by having John, Kurt, and Dick, and probably some of my former teachers listening to me. So it's interesting how one never stops being a student. Really, I would like to begin my speech telling you, as part of this community of ergis, that erg really was a breakthrough in my life, in my academic career, and even in my personal life. And I learned, studying at erg, I learned a different way to think, and particularly to act as scientists and as practitioners. And in my talk today, I would like to convey this message to you, this urgency, but this need, to probably more than any at any other time, this desperate need for new insights, a new social contract for science, and more than anything, probably organized, peaceful, but strong and consistent civil action from the bottom up to really change the current situation. I will share my screen now, and so I can share my thoughts. And so the title of my speech is Confronting Civilizational Crisis, a Call for Local and Collective Action. So, okay. Sorry. So we clearly in the public arena, we see almost every day these pictures about the climate change. Now it's called climate change crisis. Now it's called climate change emergency. And my first message to you is to really think about, even if it is clearly a very important and a large problem, is just we really need to see climate change as the tipping off of the iceberg for deeper and more structural problems. In fact, part of my message today is that we are really, I will argue that we are at the end of a fossil fuel-based global capitalism, as is the dominant economic system, and that this is not just another crisis. It's really the crisis that has put all in the face of taking action for new and radical change. No? And we can see this as, for example, climate change really is just the emissions and the problems caused by climate change are the consequence of many other things that get that are at the basis, no? And they have to do really with almost any other issue in society, and they have to do first of all with this exponential growth of material consumption, but also on almost every indicator we would like to think about. So is this society is called there's even the notion, no, that we are in different geological era, the Anthropocene, almost also could be named as Technocene because of the importance of technology. And this situation, this exponential growth, no, of impacts, insults, and consumption in a finite world is putting us, everybody, into a very difficult situation. And so this has to do with the environmental issues, no, like the incredible accumulation of waste, unsustainable megacities, biodiversity loss, but also has to do with food, the way we eat, no, with unhealthy diets and agriculture completely dependent on fossil fuels, precarious public health systems. We have also severe problems of violence, racism, gender inequality, violence against women and indigenous people. So the different, I think the different problems or different base parameters are all compounded in getting this structure that at the end is surfaces as one of the effects is climate change. But we really need to face this deeper crisis in order to really be able to act and to change the situation. And well, and when we were even on top of this, then we got last year the pandemics. And so this, again, is to me, is a sign that we are not just in just a particular or just another crisis like in the past, but we are coming to a very, very important situation where we need a different civilizational change. Sorry for the pronunciation. So one thing that we have not talked, I think, enough in the past is this divide, increasing and really enormous divide between inequality among and within countries. No? And these are just two graphs showing on the right hand that 10% of the richer 10% of the world is responsible for 50% of total emissions. No? And on the left, we see the income, the differences between the poorest and the richest country within the OECD. No, this would be a lot worse in other countries. But it's also is large. No, Mexico has the first place. Not something to be proud of. But also the US is in a very bad shape, and the bad thing is that these income inequalities have been growing in the latest decade. So we are unequal but increasing inequality world. Today, less than 100 people own half of the wealth of the world. It's unbelievable, no? Less than 100 people own more than 3.5 billion people, no? So the situation is really tragic. And what has been achieved? Well, we know, no, regarding climate change. I just put two things to illustrate the situation. In climate change, the situation is really bad. The progress has been minimum. Even the Paris Accord that is here, no, in the middle, very, very short in terms of, or not ambitious, not enough ambitious in order to get to the 2 degrees Celsius that we need in order to do not get these extreme problems with climate change. Well, but we are far, even far from the Paris Accord. So these things are not being, progress is minimum. And also, if we look at the now in the Sustainable Development Goals that has been designed as a way to tackle and to put targets on different parts of the society, the relationship between society, environment, and the biosphere. Well, progress has been minimum in many of them, and even there we find contradictions. No, some still aim at the economic growth, and while in other SDGs we really need to stop the growth in order to get the situation in the scale that in a sustainable realm. So the thing is, we are not getting to where we need to go, and then there have been mounting criticism, and I think these criticisms come, of course, from the academia, but from sectors that in the past were not so probably so critics. But I see this more and more urgency for calling for action, but for a radical rethinking, no, about the future imaginaries and the future of the civilization, in particular challenging growth. No, is this the growth school that is more and more important internationally, and there have been from many sectors. I see one from just a recent paper, even from John Hart, no, challenging now the basics, the lifestyle, the basic structure of society and the way we have been handling this situation. And this comes together with an increasing activism from well, you see, even students, children, but from many other actors that are really saying that we are not doing enough. The pandemic affected a lot these movements, but now the situation, the crisis is there, and people are more and more desperate, but also thinking, acting, or asking for change. And well, what has been the response from I would say, the status quo, no, or the establishment? Well, I think more, of course, the talk is a lot, is provocative. I think, I know that situations are not black and white, but I think we really need to get to the bottom of the situation in order to solve the problems. And by and large, I think that the response has been more of the same, but the green. No, now we see, as in the sustainable development, no, in the 90s, now we see everybody talking about green growth, green economy, Green Deal, green recovery, green energy, but and focusing, most of the solution focus on technology, for example, the digital era, large-scale renewables, geoengineering, and more investment. I will argue that this is not enough, that this is not the way to go, and in fact, if we focus solely on this, on getting to just to the surface in terms of technology, in terms of the other measures, without really going into the structure of the situation, we will only worsen the situation in the midterm. So I think we really need to go beyond that, particularly at the universities and as a civil society. And I will argue that that the true way forward lies a lot on challenging these notions from growth, global corporate, standardized, inequity, violent individuals, competition, and of course, a male-dominated world, and to really focus our efforts and as a society, as individuals, in designing this new and giving life to this new paradigm that where the key concepts have to do with degrowth or just sustainable consumption, local and polycentric governments, I mean here in terms of Ostrom, for example, democratic, diverse societies, self-sufficient, just, non-violent. We really need to talk a lot more about cooperation, adaptation, about resiliency, and about gender equity. And I will argue that with these new concepts and these new, of course, institutions, even technologies and things that are required to go into this new direction, we can find finally a new space, no? The space for living together in this planet. There has been a lot of literature produced lately on this. I am just showing some books, but the idea is to really that a lot of people, and there's a lot of work at the local and national and international level trying to advance this paradigm. And in particular, regarding the energy transition, that is, I think, is one of the key or the core concepts in this green transition. I would like to use it as an example, no? And you see now internationally, and for example, I will use also examples from Mexico. There's this notion that the energy transition, no, as part, this would be like the conventional way of thinking about the energy transition as part of this green growth paradigm, no? And the idea, the premises is that we can sustain our current consumption patterns and lifestyles, and of course growth, economic growth, but just replacing fossil fuels with renewables. So basically keeping society the same, but now fueling the society with renewables. The focus is on technology, particularly on electricity production from solar, wind technologies, and has been a lot of focus also on electric cars for transportation. Who are the actors, no, that push this transition? Well, at the core are large-scale corporate enterprises or corporations, even corporations that come from the fossil fuels. And in order to really do the things at the scale needed to just to replace or to continue with our paradigm, growing economic paradigm, these companies are, what is happening is a continuation of what we call extractivism, or this mining logic that has got to problems of, has reached problems of land grabbing, displacement of local people. The discussion, that in the 20s, 2005 or 2010 about liquid fuels is now happening with the solar plants, wind farms, etc. And the last part of this approach is to have of this paradigm, is basically a top-down driven approach where there are no clear benefits for local people, and because of that, there's an increase in social unrest regarding large-scale renewable projects. And I will tell you very quickly, this is what happened in Mexico we had what it was called energy reform, and basically the reform was to use renewables to get richer people, even the rich, even richer. No? And what happened is that it was many projects were established, particularly large wind farms, on top of many of them really displacing local farms, local people, indigenous people, and as you see from these pictures, with little or no benefit for them. So there is now a very large opposition in this in southern Mexico. No? It's called La Ventosa in Oaxaca, but in many other places, Yucatan Peninsula, etc., a growing opposition to these projects because really they have not they have been conducted following the logic or to get these big corporations large profits at the expense of local people. I will also like to show you, the size of the projects in some cases. No, this is on the bottom picture. No, this is the city of Torreon, and this is one of the projects on cell photovoltaics, projects that is almost the size of the city, for example. No? So the thing is, as I say, we really need to ask ourselves, no? First of all, before doing this project, so energy for what? Energy for whom? Who decides? Who benefits? And who gets the impacts? So I think, as I said, we need to turn to get a very different direction. And well, here are the basic principles that I think we need to follow, no? And they have to do with considering energy as a means to an end. So it's focusing on basic needs, closing the energy gap, no? So democratizing. There are so many people, almost 3 billion people that still do not have access to clean cooking, and 1 billion that do not have access to electricity. But also at the same time, really targeting this luxury or non-essential energy consumption at high income levels, targeting consumption, not just efficiency. And through that, and then, well, to work in this new design for cities, instead of having the divide between urban and rural areas. I was thinking about a new concept, not like rural-urban, I don't know how to call them, but something that where they can collaborate instead of one sucking all the resources from the other. Focusing mobility on public transportation, localized production, the agroecological production on food systems, more emphasis on small, mid-sized projects, and on local collective energy prosumers, for example, and especially on a diverse mix of renewable energy sources and technologies, instead of really getting everything on focusing on electricity and one or two technologies. I think we also need to diversify and contextualize, no, the sources according to the different needs. So this is basically the approach. We can discuss that later on, but when you follow this basic needs approach, for example, immediately one can see that the energy that is needed is a lot less than what is expected or what is projected from the scenarios. No? And just this is one example. No, I have other as background material, but here you can see that almost 75 reduction in energy use from the business as usual, but also almost 30% reduction regarding other scenarios that continue, this green growth or green economics agenda. No? So I think there is a lot, room to go and to explore. We should be really doing more in this type of scenarios, in my view. And just to be finishing now my presentation, I would like to just to tell you a little bit about what is happening in Mexico, and I'm excited because the National Science Program, the head is by the way, is a student, a former student from Berkeley, Elena Alvarez. There's now 10 national strategic programs that target or address the different needs of the country, food, health, and I'm coordinating one that is on energy transition. And the idea is to really try to begin working on this, advancing this paradigm that I was telling you about. So that focusing the transition on a structural transformation. Of course, I see the question coming. This is not what the official line of the government is doing. We can talk then about that, but at least at the National Council on Science and Technology, we are working on this transformation. No? We have 55 projects that are coming from all over Mexico, and what we are sorry, what we are doing is following a transdisciplinary and systemic approach. We have teams of social scientists, engineers, natural science, biologists, working together with local users, local cooperatives, local actors, in order to co-create this, to form these learning communities, we call in Spanish, comunidades de aprendizaje, where you have the different members of society, the academia, the government, local organizations working together in order to solve particular problems related to energy access, to distributed energy or electricity, to green industry and mobility. And these are supposed to be living labs that will be like lab examples, no, and inputs for public policy to be taken later on by the ministries, so they can be replicated at different levels. And let me see. So in short, I really think that we need a radical change. I was going to put we need a revolution, but then I think next time I will not be admitted to the US, maybe. So, but I really think that in terms of Thomas Kuhn is really a revolution in terms of paradigm, changing and challenging this notion of progress and welfare that is so tied with material consumption. No, we really need new metaphors, new imaginaries, addressing the inequities, going away from these standardized ways of getting the world. No, it seems that you go to different cities, different places, and all looks the same. And instead, we think we need to take a more diverse and contextual approach. And more than anything, and this is a message to students, we need a lot more activism. We really need to go to not be constrained, going to the classrooms, but really partner with social grassroots movements, take the streets, build the bottom up, and really pursue this collective and organized action. And I'm showing this examples from a scenario, a work that we do with the students here in Morelia, in Mexico, where they spend a semester working on new imaginaries, no? So not being constrained by the current situation, but to think and to dream. I think we really need to dream a lot more and to act. So thank you very much. I hope I didn't talk too much, and thank you again.
Thank you so much, Omar. That was fantastic. Unfortunately, we do not have time for questions.